I never meant to cause you any sorrow. I never meant to cause you any pain. I'm the one who wants to see you laughing. I only want to see you laughing in the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain.
Right now, we are talking to the Chicago pro wrestler Marvelous Matt Knicks on Pro Wrestling Enforcer podcast. And he'll be performing at Warrior Wrestling Friday Night Lights. It's going to be on August 7th, Marion Catholic High School in Chicago Heights. And also, we promote Freelance Pro, Freelance Underground, which are based in Chicago, and also was on AEW Dynamite. And we know there's a tag team with four-star heroes with Chris Castro as well. So, Nick, again, we enjoy having you on the show. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just enjoying my weekend here. It's weird having weekends off of wrestling, and especially with the way this pandemic has been going, wrestling's been slowly starting to come back now, and like you just said, I'll be wrestling my first match in like 5 months this Friday for Warrior Wrestling, so I'm very excited for that.
It definitely I talk about it because the pandemic has been challenging for everyone, especially those in artistic entertainment mediums such as pro wrestling. Not being able to hold events for freelance, for the past few months. And how did you find yourself being patient, knowing that the opportunities will come back eventually, but it's a really challenging time.
Patience is definitely the key with all of this right now. It's been quite an adjustment of just kind of trying to figure out what to do with your time now. But thankfully I'm not losing money by not running any shows right now, so that's nice. But it sucks because I love wrestling, I love performing, I love promoting shows, and I know a lot of the fans in the city love wrestling, and they miss it. They miss going out on a Friday night and hanging out with everybody and watching a show. And now it's something that we not necessarily took for granted, but I think when everything starts to come back to normal, a lot more people will appreciate going to your local independent wrestling shows.
Definitely. And talk about returning to the ring yourself. I mean, your last match, as you said, was in March at Lucky Punks. It was a tag team towel gauntlet match. And now, at Warrior Wrestling, you're going to be a part of the Spartan Stadium Scramble. Talk about, did you have to get used to being back in the ring? Is it something that you had to work on to get yourself up for?
So thankfully we have at Pro Wrestling Tees is where we host the Freelance Wrestling Academy, and we've actually just slowly started bringing the kids back in and doing classes again. But I had access to that ring the entire time during this pandemic. So every so often I would go back in there and kind of run the ropes a little bit or take a few bumps just to kind of like keep my body acclimated to that kind of condition. But with the kids being back in there and practicing, when I am able to, work schedule permitting, I like getting back in there and practicing with them because they're also awesome and good, and they helping them learn, I guess, a little bit of our craft. It's awesome seeing their passion and stuff because it drives me to want to be better and get better in the ring.
Definitely, and what a match for you to come back with. This is going to be a match that I don't know where it's going to take place, all over the stadium, or rather just being in the ring. But you being in there with like several other wrestlers like talk about that. It's not just a singles match or an exhibition match by any means.
Yeah, there's 8 people in this match, and it's really cool because there's quite a few of those people in there I've never wrestled with, so it's fun to be in there with people that I haven't had a chance to perform with. There's a few people in that match that I've never even met before, so it'll be cool to kind of like meet new people and kind of see what they bring to the table. But then there's also a few people that I have wrestled there, have wrestled a couple times, and especially seeing how well Dan the Dad and Warhorse specifically see how much their careers have kind of like taken off in the last couple of years has been really awesome to see, because I consider them friends, and I love seeing my friends do well, and it makes me happy to see them being successful and getting chances to wrestle on national television. It's really cool.
Yeah, I bet. And talk about, you had a chance to be part of national television yourself when you were in Dynamite last November.
Yes, that is right.
So for you, how was that experience? Because, we have Cody is TNT champion. He has an open challenge. So would you like to have a rematch with him one day?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think the opportunity that I had last November was incredible. I was there that day as just an extra, hired to be there and just kind of like fill whatever role they needed that day, and was not expecting much. I mean, it's you're just there to kind of be a spot filler, and I don't mind that. Like it's a good place to be. Everybody there is super awesome backstage. Like everyone's very welcoming. I have a lot of friends that are signed there, so it's nice to see them. And the day of, they were just kind of like, yeah, you're gonna be the one to wrestle Cody tonight. And I was just like, what? Like I thought they were joking with me, and no, they were like serious. Like this is the spot. Like this is it's a couple minutes, but. And I was like, no, that's awesome. Like, thank you so much for the opportunity. And he was so cool. Like, he was like, oh, this is kind of what I was thinking. Like, he's like, are you cool with that? And I'm like, yeah, dude, like, this is your show. Like, whatever you want to do, I'm down. And everybody asked me, like, was I nervous at all? And honestly, I was like 0% nervous the entire time. Until he came out and his pyro hit, and then I was just like, oh, because you could feel like the fire all the way down by the ring, and I was just like, oh shoot, this is real. And then yeah, like it was really cool, like just to be in that spot and like to say like, oh, I wrestled Cody on Dynamite, like that's awesome. But like the real cool part about that for me, and I know for a lot of people, was the crowd just start like I like to say the entire crowd, but I'm sure it was only like a small sector of the crowd, but it was definitely, you could hear it. The crowd started chanting like freelance wrestling, and I was like, even Cody like kind of stopped in the middle of the ring and kind of like looked around and gave me like a little smirk, and I was just like, oh man, like that's crazy. And even afterwards he was like, oh, he's like, freelance is pretty over here in Chicago, huh? And I was like, just a little bit. But yeah, no, I would love an opportunity to have like an actual match with Cody if the opportunity ever preceded itself. I would definitely love to, to show what I can do. But it's really cool seeing what he's doing right now as far as giving these people in independent wrestling opportunities. And these guys making the absolute most of their opportunities. Like we just saw Warhorse this past week. He did incredible. He showed the world just exactly who he is. And the week prior to that, we saw him wrestling Eddie Kingston, and Kingston's one of my favorite human beings in wrestling. And to see him get an opportunity to not only wrestle his style, to kind of promo his style, but also to see them sign him and to have him be a part of the roster now is just awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after we hear the story that he had to sell his wrestling boots to keep his lights on. That just sounds real, a little too real.
Yeah, the grind never stops, and I hope he has way more success coming.
Yeah, same here. Chicago independent pro wrestling really has, taken off, and we see a select few that can take credit. Of course, you, Ali, among the other promoters. And now that he's in WWE, talk about how you still maintain that bond. I mean, do you still ask Ali for advice when it comes to your product?
Yeah, we definitely talk still. Not like all the time, but like often enough. And he's such an amazing person that like will always go out of his way to kind of like pump up some of the guys here, like in the Chicagoland area. Like he'll always be posting stuff about like, Isias or GPA, Laney, any of these people around here, Kylie. And it's awesome to see him kind of use his platform to give love to these people that are great wrestlers that could maybe use some of that exposure, and especially with Freelance too. Like he was only here with us for about a year, but he made such an impact, both in ring and then with him getting signed and stuff like that. Like it really kind of brought a lot of new eyes to Freelance. So I owe him a whole lot just for that. And he even every once in a while before the pandemic, he was stopping by at the Freelance Wrestling Academy and would just like drop in and run a class and just like show these kids like stuff that he knows and stuff. And it's so awesome that he's willing to like take time out of his incredibly busy schedule and spread some knowledge around to all these younglings.
Yeah, definitely. He's doing Chicago proud, obviously being a WWE superstar as he is, but still taking time. And I heard like backstage he's real nice too, from people that have worked with him. Yeah,
he's one of the nicest dudes I've met in wrestling.
And then also another match in your past you had wrestled, I believe you dragged it was called The Game of Genders, Freelance Underground. And you did work the Sea Stars. You wrestled Sea Stars. So talk about working with them, how they've exploded so far. Like, I don't think we've seen one tag team win as many championships as much as they have in recent memory. Like they're winning a lot of major independent championships.
Oh yeah, though. So I think the listing on cagematch.net has it listed as myself and Gregory Iron. It was actually myself and Alex Olson.
Okay.
It was supposed to be me and Castro, but Castro, unfortunately, he had separated his shoulder a couple weeks prior, so he wasn't able to do the match. And but the Sea Stars are awesome, and I remember seeing them pop up on a lot of shows on the East Coast, and then especially with IWB TV, kind of being able to see a lot of these matches easier. And I just kept saying, like, man, like I would love to wrestle those girls at some point. Like, with me and Castro, we have such good chemistry as a team. Obviously, they have really good chemistry as a team. I was like, I think we could do something really fun. And especially even with Olsen being added to the match, like he's very good in his own right. And what we put together was a really fun match that made sense and had a little bit of goofiness to it, but I know a lot of people were saying that was probably one of their favorite matches on that show. But yeah, no, I loved working with them. I would love to work with them again sometime soon, hopefully.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know they also had wrestled the Freelance show the night before. They took on the tag team champion Space Pirates, I believe.
Yeah, that was a really, really good match too.
Yeah, they're great workers, and just seeing how far they've come in just a short time. They win the Sure tag team titles, and then you just feel like they will definitely be working on a television show in the future.
Oh, without a doubt. Now,
have you ever worked a crowd like you didn't like, and no matter what, you could have had them react? Is that a challenge for you? I know I've talked a couple wrestlers about that, and when you have that crowd, it just doesn't get into what you're doing.
It happens sometimes, especially like when you travel a lot and you're wrestling in an area where the crowd may not know who you are.
Right.
But that's like a lot of people kind of get discouraged by that, and they're just like, oh, this crowd didn't even care about me at all. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, yeah, they're not going to care about me because they don't know me, but you have to make them care. And I think it's a real fun challenge sometimes to kind of to play with some things that you might not normally do, to see what gains a reaction from like a fresh crowd. And I actually really like that, because I think it gives you an opportunity to kind of start fresh every single time. And granted, I mean, you want the crowd to know who you are, so it makes your job a little bit easier. But sometimes it is fun to kind of practice other ways to get them to react.
And now we have Isias Velasquez, who's going to be on Warrior. Obviously he's come from Freelance and part of Freelance Academy. He's an instructor there, also on the freelance wrestling event. And, of course, Kylie Ray, who everybody knows from AEW, now Impact, and, what she's done with she's the current freelance champion. And just see how, like, they came from freelance. Essentially now they're Chicago pro wrestling royalty, especially for Kylie. So, talk about how you've been able to make, like, mega stars, coming out of this gym.
Oh, I everyone kind of like will say like, oh, look, they like Freelance made them, and I'm like, no. They helped make Freelance. Like, these people, like they were always good. I mean, like, I remember Isias. I'm meeting him when I first started training back in like 2010. He was like one of the guys that would always come to the gym, and he basically helped train us in our training class. And Kylie, I remember her. She was friends with another wrestler in the Chicagoland area, and I remember her coming to shows like prior to her ever even training, and just kind of saying like, oh yeah, I want to get into wrestling one day, and like, we all kind of like try to help her out, and she started training in the Chicagoland area, and then had moved to Houston for work, and then finished up training at Booker T School down there. And then when she moved back home, by the time she did move back home, like Freelance had just kind of started up, and we were just like, yeah, like I would, just a matter of time, and then she started getting put on the shows, and then she just blew up from there, because she's just an incredibly talented individual, and it was only a matter of time before she was everywhere else.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy to see how far they've come. And of course, Kylie will be part of Warrior Wrestling, along with Isias. They'll be featured in singles matches, so I'm sure you're excited for their matches as well.
I am. Every time I get to see those guys wrestle, it's awesome.
And then, how do you enjoy watching wrestling during the pandemic? Like you yourself, do you watch matches of yours from AEW TV Live that you recommend? Do you watch AEW or any other promotions?
Well, I don't watch any of my stuff. not that I'm like, oh, I don't. It's just it's hard sometimes. Like I know a lot of wrestlers are the same way. They kind of cringe watching their own matches back. I will watch my own stuff back sometimes to kind of like see things that I can improve on, or see if things worked as well as I thought they did. But for the most part, like myself and my girlfriend, we both love wrestling, so it's pretty easy. We watch we have the network, so we're constantly throwing on like older stuff, stuff from the 90s and early 2000s. We've been trying to keep up with watching AEW weekly. That, and then watching. I do watch a lot of other shows on IWTV, and I watch Impact Plus as well to keep up on Impact's television, mainly to watch Kylie and Ethan Page and Josh. I love those guys.
Yeah, same here, man. They're all amazing. And that's why I do that too. I kind of watch Impact. It's like, oh wow, there's a lot of the wrestlers we see at all, Warrior Wrestling, Freelance, AEW, all the promotions that are there. So why not during this time when you don't have much else to do?
It's great. There's so much wrestling to watch right now that the fans of wrestling today they are spoiled rotten with the amount of wrestling that they can watch at their fingertips.
I know. And then we also go into like Mexico and Japan and MLW and all this other stuff. We can even go there, and it's just like, wow, it's unlimitless,
It's awesome. There's a little bit of something for everybody.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you, Matt, of course, being a part of the Pro Wrestling Force podcast. Marvelous Matt and Nick's on the show. Of course, his name is Nick. That's your real name. So, I'll say thank you again for being on the show. And if there's anyone you'd like to thank, anything you'd like to plug, go ahead.
Sure. If you want, you can follow me on social media. It's at the Matt Knicks, TheMattKnicks. I actually have my own podcast as well. It's called My Violet Tendencies. It's basically just me sitting down with not just people in wrestling, but just people in my life in general that I think are kind of interesting. And, we just kind of shoot the shit and get to know these people a little bit more and hear what they have to say. I have merchandise available at prowrestlingtees.com/MattNicks. I'm going to be doing a new thing starting this month. But I've already kind of been doing it, but I'm doing it more official now. But I'm going to be releasing a new shirt design every month. That's probably going to be like a parody design off of different bands that I like.
Nice.
But the entire proceeds of the shirt sales that I get from my Pro Wrestling Tees page, I'm going to be donating the proceeds to different charities in the Chicagoland area. And I'll probably be matching the donation amount too, just to kind of stimulate the money a little bit. But it's something that I'm very passionate about, especially during this pandemic. I know a lot of people are out of work. A lot of people need help right now, and thankfully I have been able to continue working at my job throughout this pandemic. So you start sharing the wealth around a little bit, and help each other out.
For sure, yeah. And remind everybody too that they can not only get tickets for the event, but if they don't feel like they want to be there live, obviously with the pandemic, they can watch it online too. I think it's High Spots Network will have Warrior Wrestling Live.
Yes, watch it and then watch me, because I'm going to be, moving around and jumping off the top rope and dropping my purple elbow on people.
Can't wait. I'll actually be there, so I'll see you out there. And again, Nick, appreciate your time being on the show.
Thank you again for having me.
Anytime. Take care.
Take care, my friend.